Okay, now we're going to move on to another fairly complicated idea. This is going to be creating a guitar synth where effectively the signal coming in acts as the carrier and it's going to be modulated by a bunch of different things. So this is going to get kind of groovy, kind of gritty. This is a variation kind of based on my own patching. This is not gospel. Do not accept it as an official anything. It just sounds cool to me. So let's start by getting rid of a lot of this stuff here. And I'm going to need a lot of space to work. And with this wet, we're going to move it up. And we will definitely have to move this down. But first, let's call it S out for synth out. Both cases. Okay, the principle of what we're working with here is going to be taking this signal as a carrier and then modulating it with a bunch of other sounds. To do that, I am going to use lots and lots of sine waves. I'm going to change the name of this from DW to just 1. I'm going to give it a range from 0 to 1024, which was just a number that I pulled completely out of my hat. And then that is going to drive the frequency of a cycle, which will move down here and connect up. Okay. Then I'm going to duplicate that, so I've got 5 of these in total. And I will change the name to 2, to 3. I'm only changing the short name because it really doesn't matter a whole lot. And to 5. All right, then I am going to create multiply by 1 point. I'm going to sum all of these waveforms together. And I should probably have actually used the cycle with the tilde version because cycle without is a totally different object and I want the audio object. There we go. All right. Now I'm going to connect that into the wet and you are about to hear some noise. Take this down. Okay, that's pretty fun. But I think we can get a little bit funkier than that. What if we insert some filters in here? And let's take a look at using the one pole filter. So one pole is a single pole low pass filter. I'm going to create that, and I'm going to create a new slider that I will use as one pole's frequency cutoff. So I'm going to set that from 0 up to 22050, which is 1/2 of the sample rate that I'm currently operating on. And that's going to be low pass. Connect it up. Connect it up. At this point, we're not going to hear anything. It's going to completely nuke it because the low pass is set to 0. And there's nothing going through. Oh, that's cool. All right, what if I wanted to have a high pass? Well, again, it's a really easy trick to do in Max. What I have to do is first get rid of this cable here. I'm going to take a signal, and then I'm going to have the signal subtract from a low pass of itself. But here's the thing. I want the low pass and I want the high pass to be in serial. So I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to have the low pass then go to the high pass. So let's do two things. Let's change the name to high pass, and then let's duplicate the one pole, connect them up, take the output here, and then I'm going to have a minus tilde object. I'm going to connect those together like so. And again, this now, with the low pass at maximum and the high pass at minimum, I should be able to hear everything that's going through. And I can easily filter things out. Now, that's kind of cool, but I want to add some initial values, and I want to change how the low pass and the high pass operate. So I'm going to give it an initial value for the low pass, 22050, and for the high pass, 0. That's fine. Now I want to change the exponent for both of them. I want this to go by an exponential factor of 2 so that it's going to be a little bit more natural in its response to what you would hear as a human and how your ears pick up sounds. Now, one last thing, that's really cool, but what if I need a little bit more amplification? What if I have this completely open and it's just too loud for me? At that point, it kind of is a good idea to have some sort of amplification slider. So we're going to create an amp, and I'm just going to insert it here. And by default, that amp is probably going to be at 1 for the most part, but I may have to take it down. So this is just a good thing to know about. So we'll give it an initial value of 1, and just be aware that, again, you might have to take it down. And then we're going to try it out. One final thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to select all of these sliders and I'm going to set them all to an exponential value of 2 for the exponent. Again, this just makes things move closer to how frequencies actually work. So at this point, all of these sliders are moving exponentially except for the dry wet and the amp, and I get values that kind of map based on frequency exponentially as opposed to in a linear fashion. And this is just a super fun patch. Again, this is an effect that I kind of just developed on my own after listening to a bunch of guitar synth pedals and just chose completely random values for. So feel free to experiment with all of the values for the different sliders. I recommend going up to the Nyquist frequency for those to see what you can get. That's what I do with some of the other patches I use in performance all the time. Very fun stuff.